The Rock has forced his way into the WrestleMania card. CM Punk at the same time has been forced out through injury. This has meant major changes to the WrestleMania card that they had planned many moons ago to try and coincide with the finishing of the story by Cody Rhodes and a coronation for someone not Seth Rollins and not CM Punk in the main event of night one. We've also had Brock Lesnar pulled from his match versus Gunther due to his potential involvement in allegations against Vince McMahon. All of this means it's a very different WrestleMania facing us now. Let's break down what the card is now going to be looking like. We start with an absence due to injury. Charlotte Flair was supposed to be facing a heel Bianca Belair, but not only was Charlotte Flair injured, but this resulted in the heel turn not happening. Not only is Bianca Belair staying as a face, she's also, by extension, meaning that Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits are staying as faces as well, after their heel turn failed in the same way. While there are some in creative pushing for Bianca to now face Jade Cargill at WrestleMania seems destined for Nia Jax instead. There's a number of other suggestions, primarily the idea that Bianca, Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits could take on Karrion Kross, the Authors of Pain and Scarlett. That's gaining some traction as well. At the moment though, Bianca Belair does not have a set path. Drew McIntyre is a potential World Heavyweight Championship challenger, but his contract is still up in the air and the WWE seem unwilling to do too much business with him until that is resolved. That said, the WWE are very interested in getting this over the line, and I'm assuming it's just a matter of time. Drew McIntyre has been promised a major championship run and a big feud over several months with CM Punk upon Punk's return, but that's a promise during the length of his contract, not during the first year when Drew McIntyre is looking for it. Sami Zayn defeating Drew McIntyre one-on-one at WrestleMania as a redemption story for Sami Zayn remains a genuine possibility. As regards Sami Zayn though, he's literally just being kept in reserve at this point. It's a far cry from main eventing night one last year, and a far cry from the absolute peak of his time with the Bloodline. Speaking of the Bloodline, there is very little heat either from fans or from WWE itself behind the Jey Uso versus Jimmy Uso feud that was started way back at SummerSlam. Unfortunately, WWE are still planning to make this happen. It was originally going to be part of a package deal, Jey Uso versus Jimmy Uso. We would also see Solo Sikoa potentially against someone like Randy Orton, and this would mean that Cody Rhodes had a clear path to Roman. Of course, if there is any questions about the Roman versus Cody match, there has to be questions about Jey versus Jimmy, but at this moment in time, it is believed to be going ahead. Jey Uso now challenging Gunther seems to suggest that they may be planning Jey versus Jimmy for the Intercontinental Championship to heat that up. I'm assured that's not the case, with Jey Uso ready to pretty much bounce off Gunther because Jimmy Uso will guarantee it. That's the method they've chosen to try and heat this feud up. For the Intercontinental Championship and Gunther at WrestleMania, the original plan was for Brock Lesnar to be the man in that spot. That definitely is not happening now. The match itself was first reported here on the Tom Colohue channel. Subscribe if you haven't. Now, Bron Breakker was brought in to replace Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble, and that's a lot of B's to say at once. This puts Bron Breakker in a great position going forwards, and I do genuinely think Bron Breakker versus Gunther for the IC Championship at WrestleMania is potentially on the cards here. Bron Breakker is not dedicated to Raw or SmackDown as of yet, which still leaves him the opportunity of having Gunther essentially tease him into a championship match. This is being written as we speak, and it's being written very last minute, so they're doing the best they can with this one. Personally, I'm excited by the prospect. Moving across to the United States Championship, Kevin Owens has little to no chance of actually beating Logan Paul at Elimination Chamber where they're setting up a rematch. At the same time, I don't necessarily have big names like Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens and AJ Styles on this card at all. That said, LA Knight, who's one of the hottest current superstars going, has an opportunity potentially against Logan Paul. That's where I'd go for WrestleMania, and that's exactly what I think we're going to see. A big United States Championship win at WrestleMania for LA Knight. Moving across to the women's division, I have to start by talking about Liv Morgan. I mentioned during Monday's spoiler warning there are no big plans right now for a strong push for Liv Morgan. She will feature in promos, she's likely to feature in the Elimination Chamber, but they are protecting her as best they can. Around SummerSlam time they brought her back too early while still injured, and unfortunately this meant the injury not only recurred but actually got worse, and that's why they've lost about half a year of Liv Morgan programming. The WWE don't just want to avoid pushing her too hard, they also need to clear the path, because Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley has been the plan for over a year. I'm not sure what the main event of Elimination Chamber will be, but it will be a women's match. Either the women's chamber match, won by Becky Lynch, meaning Becky versus Rhea stare down to end the show in Australia, or the actual championship match to make it feel massive going into WrestleMania, Rhea Ripley defending successfully against Nia Jax. I do find it interesting that they've laid out a course here, whereas Becky Lynch could feasibly face either of them. They've been fighting and cutting promos in combination, these three, for a while now, so I suspect Rhea Ripley versus Nia Jax may be the Elimination Chamber main event. The SmackDown women's match has also been locked in for a very long time. We're talking about May time, and it was first reported on this channel in July. Bayley versus Io Sky is all lined up, with Damage Control having a lot to say about it. The Kabuki Warriors will be featuring in a tag team championship match on the show, likely of 4 corners, but a lot of this does come down to when Dakota Kai declares that she is cleared from injury. I've got my eye on Elimination Chamber for that one as well. I suspect she may be involved, if not necessarily in the match, at WrestleMania. The tag division is next, and this has been a labour of love from Triple H for a very long time. He's been rebuilding, essentially from scratch, a tag division that was left devoid of love by Vince McMahon. And a large part of this is knowing that the Judgment Day not only were not meant to be champions at this point, but they're essentially a placeholder right now, holding onto the belts, while Triple H built a division underneath them that could sustain its own weight. We're seeing the fruits of that labour on Raw and SmackDown, and I suspect come WrestleMania, the championships will change hands. Damian Priest has bigger and better things to be getting on with. Meanwhile, Finn Balor has still not yet signed a new deal with the WWE. The hope seemed to be that giving him a championship and making sure that Judgment Day were heavily featured, which to be fair, they really have been, would help convince him to stick around. To my knowledge, as of yet, not quite, but he's having a great time with the Judgment Day, and I do feel this is a signature that they could get over the line. Finally, this leaves a main event scene where The Rock, Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns are all squabbling over who's the biggest, who's the baddest and whose belt is the shiniest. If I can pitch a couple of ideas here, because the first one is what I think will happen and the second one is what I hope the WWE pivot to, because right now Triple H is essentially open to ideas of trying to fix the problems that The Rock has caused. What I need to say before pitching is that The Rock has requested a main event championship win at WrestleMania, according to a number of different reports. But Cody at the same time isn't going anywhere quietly. Fan theories of a triple threat match are wide of the mark. Triple H has no intention to do that to my knowledge. So let's talk about what the options actually are. Number 1, the WWE continue with what was roughly their plan going into WrestleMania. Cody Rhodes takes the place of CM Punk and The Rock takes the place of Cody Rhodes. This means that Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins happens likely in the main event of night 1 of WrestleMania. The end result of this is a victory for Damian Priest, who cashes in and we get the heist of the century against someone who was previously heist of the century. Seth Rollins would take the pin, ensuring Cody Rhodes remains quote-unquote undefeated, so we do in many ways get that triple threat championship match. The Rock then faces Roman Reigns one-on-one in the main event, the night 2 main event at least, of WrestleMania. This could be a win for The Rock. It would mean the dropping of the word Universal from the undisputed WWE Championship, as that moniker will be removed the second that Roman Reigns loses that championship, as first reported on Spoiler Warning. There are a number of arguments against this. Firstly, it means Cody Rhodes is still chasing 2 years later, but also Roman Reigns has not been working a lot these first few months of the year, and that means that he has dates ready for later in the year. He has been overworking in previous years, so he doesn't have too many remaining, but he has dates ready between WrestleMania and SummerSlam. Roman Reigns' contract, by the way, is a SummerSlam renewal nowadays, not necessarily this year though. It does bring up the very awkward possibility of Roman Reigns returning after losing to The Rock with no championship left to chase, because he himself is now frustrated by a part-time champion who won't stand up and face him. It would also mean a new head of the table, which means Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso side with The Rock. I can't imagine a world in which The Rock even allows Jimmy Uso anywhere near him. This leaves us with option 2, an idea I pitched on Spoiler Warning previously. We open WrestleMania with The Rock versus Roman Reigns. The fact that it's only opening WrestleMania means that fans are much more likely to cheer The Rock, which is not likely right now, I can tell you that. Roman Reigns retains the WWE Universal Championship, maintaining a lead and a record that is stretching for ages still to come, or at least one day. Cody Rhodes still faces Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship, but this time he wins. He actually claims the championship, no sign of Damian Priest. Cody Rhodes celebrates but says that the story is not yet finished. There is one more championship still to come. It is declared as winner take all for night 2, Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes. The Rock goes quietly into the night or has a match with Seth Rollins basically as a runner-up match going into the end of night 2. Seth Rollins is able to escape most of the scrutiny. He is still carrying an injury, and he then takes a break between WrestleMania and SummerSlam. If you're not sure what I mean when I talk about taking a break, again, check out spoiler warning. Seth's contract negotiations are still ongoing, and to my knowledge, neither Seth nor Becky have signed a new deal as of yet. Seth and Becky have previously taken breaks after WrestleMania and Survivor Series, periodically based in 2020, and the breaks that they had planned in that period. Again, first reported on the Tom Colohue channel back in 2020. This leads to Cody Rhodes, the World Heavyweight Champion, versus Roman Reigns, the WWE Universal Champion. Cody Rhodes claims victory. Knowing that Jey Uso has vanquished Jimmy Uso, Randy Orton has vanquished Solo Sikoa, Roman Reigns is isolated entirely. The championship, both belts, go home with Cody Rhodes. Except not quite, because less than a minute after finishing his story, Cody gets the microphone, declares that the story is finished, and is immediately attacked by the entirety of Judgment Day. Damian Priest claims both World Heavyweight WWE Universal Championships, and a united Judgment Day becomes his screen and his protection going forwards in a relatively brief time compared to Roman's standing that he holds that championship. Just like that for Cody Rhodes, the story begins again. Let me know what you're expecting at WrestleMania in the comments, and click the video on screen now if you want more details as to what we're expecting from this year's Elimination Chamber.